What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with TechDaily, and in this video, we are checking out the new Samsung Galaxy S23 FE. Now, this is a phone that's derived from what was, in my opinion, the greatest Samsung phone ever made, the OG S20 FE, a device that pioneered the idea of getting a near flagship phone for less than the $1,000 price tag they usually command. The S20 FE was fun and colorful, feature-packed with all the right specs. It was affordable, and it sold in huge numbers. Unfortunately, every year since, Samsung has, for whatever reason, totally botched the launch of each subsequent FE or Fan Edition follow-up. The highly anticipated S21 FE was delayed, rumored to even be canceled, and then ultimately quietly launched basically the same week the new S22 flagships were announced, which didn't make a lot of sense. The S22 FE was never released at all. Samsung supposedly focused their efforts on the S22 Ultra instead. This year, the FE is back in the form of the S23 FE, but instead of this device being a hot mid-cycle summer release like it should be, here we are near the end of 2023 and likely a month away from the new slew of Samsung flagship devices with what should be a fan favorite, affordable quasi-flagship phone that just isn't getting the love it deserves. I'm hoping to change that though. So in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the S23 FE, how it compares to the flagship version, of course, why you should probably buy this one instead. But first things first, let's just quickly unbox it so I can show you what comes inside the package if you decide to buy one. Peeling off the stickers here and sliding off the lid, the first thing you'll see is the phone itself, shrouded for some reason in this unsightly wrapping. But there's the phone, which we'll check out in just a second. Also in the box is, well, literally nothing actually. The familiar packet of stuff is stuck inside the lid, and inside here you get enough cardboard filler to start a campfire, a SIM ejector tool, a USB-C cable for charging, and a quick start guide. And that's it. The slim, minimal packaging once again affords you no additional accessories. So here is the new S23 FE. Mine, of course, is in purple, which honestly is the best color this year. There's also graphite black, cream white, and mint green. A pretty far cry from the half a dozen rainbow shades of previous FE phones, but whatever, I'm only a little sad about that. Now, the full retail price of the S23 FE is technically $599, but as is usually the case, it's already discounted on places like Amazon for $100 off. At first glance, the S23 FE sorta kinda looks like a combination of the flagship S23 and like maybe one of Samsung's higher end A-series phones. It has certain elements from each device tier, and altogether, you get a very familiar looking phone with both budget and flagship characteristics. The S23 FE is a 6.4-inch smartphone. That's the screen size from corner to corner, and that puts it in between the regular S23, which is a small 6.1-inch device, and the S23 Plus at 6.6 inches. The screen-to-body ratio here, though, at barely 83%, obviously makes this phone feel bigger and look a little less premium. You've got thick, obvious black borders all around the display, so it has the form factor of a slightly larger device, but in the hand, I guess it's still relatively comfortable, and is likely easier to manage, especially one-handed, than a 6.6 or 6.7-inch flagship. Around back, the S23 FE is actually built from premium materials. It has a Gorilla Glass 5 rear cover paired to an all-aluminum frame, nearly the same flagship caliper construction as the standard S23. And visually, that very, very glossy back and matte metal frame make the phone look like a $1,000 device, at least when it's not covered in smudges. In the hand, the phone is also thicker and heavier too. It's more than 10 grams heavier than the S23 Plus, even though it's technically smaller than that phone, and it's more than a 0.5 millimeter thicker than the flagships too. So it's a big and chunky device, but I personally like that it feels a little more substantial. And taking a quick look around, nothing on the left side of the phone there besides a 5G antenna. On the right, your usual power and volume buttons. Down at the bottom, the USB-C port for charging, the speaker off to the right, and just the perfect blank spot for a headphone jack. Up at the top is where you'll find your SIM card tray. It's only a SIM card tray. There's no SD card support on this phone, which isn't a surprise necessarily, but still a mild disappointment. You can configure this phone with either 128 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes of storage, and about 30 40 gigabytes is used up out of the box by the pre-installed apps and Android. Speaking of apps, Keep Solid's Mono Defense bundle, this video's sponsor, is one of the first things I always install on my devices. Mono Defense is a comprehensive 5-app cybersecurity bundle that aims to keep your online identity and all your personal info safe. The Mono Defense apps can be installed on up to 5 different devices, including your Android smartphone, your iPhone, laptop, tablet, and more. VPN Unlimited is your first line of defense for staying safe on public and at-home Wi-Fi networks. With 256-bit AES encryption, VPN Unlimited makes it almost impossible for anyone to try and steal passwords, credit cards, or other sensitive info via the Wi-Fi. Passwarden allows you to store, manage, and autofill account emails and passwords, credit card numbers, ID cards, and a whole lot more. It can generate super secure passwords for you, let you know when one of your own might be compromised, and with duress mode, you can further hide your more sensitive information in a separate vault with a separate password to give yourself one more layer of protection if you're ever in a situation where officials or law enforcement demand access. You can block malware and filter malicious traffic in real time with DNS Firewall, access and stream all the major streaming services anywhere in the world with Smart DNS, and you can further protect your online accounts with Authenticator, a 2FA tool that prompts you with a uniquely generated code to serve as one more login security check. Keep Solid's Mono Defense bundle is available through the holiday season for 50% off, and they continue to offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's never been a better time to try them out. Check out Keep Solid's Mono Defense bundle at the link in the video description below. So one of the things I've always liked about Samsung's FE devices, and probably their second biggest value proposition besides their specs, is the fact that this phone has basically the exact same display as the flagship phone. The slightly larger 6.4-inch display is a dynamic AMOLED 2X panel with a 2340 by 1080 resolution, packing in around 403 pixels per inch. That's all the same core specs as the regular S23, and in fact, the only thing that's really different is the maximum brightness. The FE is a bit dimmer by a few hundred nits, but most everything else visually is the same. And a darn good screen it is. Bold, colorful, it's a flagship display through and through. And it is a dynamic 120Hz screen as well, which is enabled by default in settings. So you get the fast, fluid feel and smooth visuals of that high refresh rate balanced by its variable rate to help conserve battery. There honestly isn't a thing I'd change with the screen on this phone. Okay, maybe slightly slimmer bezels, but besides that, if screen quality and overall viewing experience is your number one criteria for a good smartphone, this is a device that once again delivers nearly the best possible viewing experience without the 4-digit price tag. What isn't all that great though is the out loud sound coming from these speakers. I feel like the dual bottom and secondary speaker setup on this phone is suspiciously bad, and I can't really figure out why. It's a bit muffled and staticky, sort of tinny. It's not very loud, but here's a sound sample so you can decide for yourself. Inside, this S23 FE gets the flagship components powering it. However, there is a minor caveat that I have to explain, which technically makes this phone a slightly worse FE than in years past. The S23 FE gets a flagship Qualcomm processor, but it's the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. The regular S23 and S23 Plus are powered by the latest 8 Gen 2. So technically, I guess this phone is a step down spec-wise. It has last year's flagship processor paired with 8 gigabytes of RAM, but honestly, is that big of a deal? Not really. Here are the Geekbench scores if you want a refresher on the 8 Gen 1 chipset, but for 99.9% of people who use their phone for normal everyday tasks throughout the day, this phone is going to perform as fast and as good as any $1,000 Android device. To the 0.1% of people who want the newest, fastest, most powerful processor available, well, you already have the S23 Ultra, or maybe you just got the new iQ12 that launched. For everyone else, though, this is going to be able to handle anything you throw at it. And let's be honest, year over year, the actual user experience hasn't changed all that much with more power via the processor. Apps can only launch so quickly. You can only scroll through Twitter so fast. But besides the specs, the other big selling point for this phone is its multiple years of Android updates. Samsung says you can expect 4, but They waited so long to release this phone that Android 14 was already released, so the first update is sort of a wasted one. But for the next 3-ish years, this phone will get the latest Android and One UI software features. So it's a solid multi-year long-term hold. And since phones haven't really been changing all that much year over year, I think most people will probably keep this device for a few years at least. So I mentioned earlier that the S23 FE is oddly thick compared to its counterparts, and that initially led me to believe that there was something big inside, like a big battery. But unfortunately, that's not really the case. This phone has a 4500 milliamp capacity battery inside, which is sort of standard size. So I have no idea why this phone is so thick. But with that size battery, you can expect a full day of use and then some. There's wireless charging and 25-watt wired fast charging. That isn't really that fast, but no other special power or charging features to speak of. Last but not least, around back, it should come as no surprise that the S23 FE has a pretty good camera setup, comparable to its flagship counterpart, not quite the same, but all the important stuff is here, and it even has a few crazy camera features that usually are reserved for the more expensive devices. The main shooter is a similar 50 megapixel lens to the flagship S23. There's an 8 megapixel telephoto lens that has all the zoom you could want without being creepy, and the 12 megapixel ultra wide is here as well, albeit without the super steady video feature found on the flagships. The selfie camera is a standard issue 10 megapixel shooter, and inside the camera app you'll find the usual array of shooting modes, settings, and camera capabilities, along with stuff you'll likely never use, like 8K video recording. You can utilize the full 50 megapixels of the main lens if you want, and altogether, I would certainly consider this a flagship camera setup. It's actually multiple steps ahead of the likes of the A54, for example, and it's far closer to the S23 flagship than it probably deserves to be, considering how much Samsung touts those phones as having the best camera setups available. This phone, though, is going to capture a ton of great looking pictures and videos, and I look forward to putting it to the test to see how it stacks up. These first few test shots here already look pretty good. Overall, the S23 FE is the whole package. It's a $1,000 phone for half the price. And I think for a vast majority of people, between this and the A54, that's all the phone you'll ever need. The frustrating thing about this phone, though, is that it was, once again, probably released a little too late. If you wanted a Samsung phone, you already have one, I'm sure, like the flagship S23 or the A54, or you're waiting for the next new phones launching probably in a month or two. But if you don't have a new phone yet and you've been waiting, this is a pretty good option. But what do you guys think about the new S23 FE? Is this a phone you would buy, or would you rather get something else? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video though. Be sure to follow TechDaily on Twitter and subscribe to the TechDaily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.